Spring is a very special time of the year. It's a time of taking bold action. It's a time of honestly acting before thinking, just totally shedding all the layers that were from winter. And now it's time to unleash a part of yourself that's really meant to flourish in 2025. When I think of defrosting for spring, I think about getting rid of things that I don't need. I'm a total purger. I truly find it therapeutic to purge clothes, objects, things. I like to cut my hair. I just cut bangs like a few weeks ago. I'm definitely going to give my hair a little cut for the spring summer season, but it feels like renewal, starting fresh. All the old is going away. Spring is essentially that. You have gone through quarter one, but even beforehand, like quarter four was a time of slowing down. And when quarter two happens, it is so exciting. Like everybody is in a better mood. The sun is out, the sun is setting later. I want to share about some things that I'm going to be working on for the next quarter, just to maybe give you guys some ideas. And yeah, I also want to mention this is the last episode of this season, so I am going to be taking a bit of a hiatus, not very long, like about a month and a half. I'll be back for quarter three for sure. I just always feel like it's important if you're a creative individual, take some time to rest, take some time to step away from your work and figure out what you really enjoy and what you want to repeat and what you don't want to repeat. And creative energy is limited. I have to practice what I preach, and I already have amazing guests coming on for the next season. I'm so excited, but I wanted to finish this season off, setting you guys up in a bit of a momentum. Momentum is the word of spring, I feel, and getting you guys in a position to work on a few things while I'm away. But you can always still find me on the newsletter. You will still find me on Instagram. And I even have another little surprise, but you're going to be hearing about it at the end of the episode. And I guess I didn't even introduce this, but hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Twenties Detox. I'm Bianca, your host, where we dive into all the things I'm learning and unlearning in my 20s. Before we get further into this episode, please make sure to share this with a friend, like it, download it. You can rate the podcast on Apple or Spotify. It just really helps me out and makes me want to continue doing these episodes because honestly, I love doing them regardless, but I also love seeing like your comments and things that you share on social media because it's so cool. Like creatives will get it. Like if you create something, it's so meaningful to you, but it's an empowering feeling when you see how other people are feeling about certain episodes and what they're taking away from it. So interesting. But let's get into defrosting. In quarter one, when I was following my guide, I really actually didn't have a very relaxing winter. And it wasn't planned, but sometimes that happens. And I want to just touch on this briefly because although it isn't a spring vibe, winter carries on to spring, and things that are unresolved in winter will still linger in the spring season. And March was like a huge month for people. Eclipse season, things were crumbling. Things were fucking crumbling. And there are lessons in that. There are lessons, and I think I always have to remind myself when I'm in the depth of something that I've gotten out of worse, and I learned a lot, and great things came out of those moments. In the winter, for me, I had started school. I also got more job opportunities, freelancing, so I was like so busy, and I honestly was kind of beating myself up about it and feeling a little bit hypocritical for talking about rest and winter. And I eventually, like a month into winter, had to tell myself like, okay, Bianca, like you didn't know that school is going to be this much. Now you know what to do for the spring season. And also, when you have new work opportunities, there's always a learning curve. And now it's becoming a bit more automatic, but there were a lot of things that I couldn't have predicted. And of course, I could have said no to everything, but I felt committed to myself and my vision and what I really wanted. And I'm actually so grateful that I stuck out with that. But I wasn't reaching major intense burnout sessions because one line that I always come back to, and a friend of mine, Bridget Bong, she is incredible, finance, Toronto girly. And one of the things she always reminds herself when she feels like hustle culture is creeping up, and unfortunately the winter season I feel like is when it's full blown because people can stay inside all day. It's cold. For self-employed people, they might work a little bit longer, despite the fact that it's been dark since 4 o'clock. But she told me this line, and I have to almost use it as a mantra when I find myself overworking. It's like, at the end of the day, I'm not saving lives. And I'm not. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a paramedic. I'm not on a crisis hotline where I'm helping people in that sense. Like, it's more creative work and gradual learning of health coaching, but I'm not saving lives. And I also had to reconnect my relationship, or relearn, that's a word I like using in the detox cycle, with school again. That might be an entire another episode about getting back into the school realm after almost 4 years not in it, and even more of a newer opportunity to do school and the same time working. I've never really done that where I've worked essentially full time and did 2 classes on the side. So I was learning a lot. B was learning a lot. I thought that I could do what I used to do in university, which was grinding and really not seeing anything wrong with that. But now I know better. It's a really interesting time when you go through a lesson, and when a pattern repeats itself, you catch yourself at least halfway through. Not at the very end when you're having a total breakdown in the lessons originally learned. Like, when it's a second time, you have that lesson, you're like, oh man, I'm playing myself. Like, that's how I feel it. Like, sometimes, like, I feel like I'm playing myself in those moments where I'm like, I know what I should be doing. Why don't I do it? But the reason why I'm talking about this right now is because, like, I'm now trying to position myself in a better way for spring to deal with the possibility of new opportunities coming in, and how am I going to handle it better for spring, that I'm not forgetting about focusing on my main goals, which I'm going to be getting into very shortly. Winter was crazy for me. There was also other personal matters, family matters that was taking up my time and my mental and emotional energy. And if at the end of the day you're always saying, I'm doing the best that I can with the tools I have and the time I have, don't beat yourself up on that. Don't feel like you gotta work until midnight. You deserve to spend an evening reading your like a book that you're reading, or watching a show, or, doing your hobby. We don't need to work all the time. And also, don't feel like you need to be perfect. That was another lesson that it was new doing school again, where I never felt the pressure to be perfect. In fact, I was so interested in this school and my learnings in the industry that I almost didn't want to get like 100%, because I know that in the real world, there's going to be more uncertainties. And I know that every bit of feedback will probably better prepare me for those situations than if I went for like 100%. It didn't mean that I didn't give full effort, but I didn't want 100%. I wanted to make sure that I could always have something to learn for next time. And I will say that having health coaches as your professors really helped, because they always word things in positive ways and they're just so supportive. I've been off semester. There's with the school program, you're on school and then there's some time off and then you're back on again. And right now I'm off, but still life seems to be busy. And I had done my goals or assessed of the wheel of life. And some of the things I'm going to be referring to are in my guide for aligning your life with the seasons, where I take you through like how to create your goals for the year, how to set up good habits in alignment with the seasons to not overly burn out, and then also to assess areas of your life that you may actually find is being overlooked. And one of the things about life is the aspects of it are so intertwined. Like if your finances aren't great, it might affect your mental health, and your mental health might be affecting your relationships, and your relationships might be affecting your work. And all of that can affect one another in different ways. And when you do the Wheel of Life exercise, you might not be so biased to go towards like, I want to work on my career, I want to find love, or I want to look a certain way, like physically. And you'll notice areas like adventure and play and mental health. And so the 3 categories are really, what was it? I think I dialed it down to 2 categories, and it was play and mental health. Like I wanted to make sure I spent more time doing fun things, hobbies, reading books, fiction or nonfiction, but like more of an emphasis on fiction. Like let myself have fun, go for evening walks, go for forest bathing, and lay on your hammock and just like listen to an audiobook, whatever, like more play. And also allowing enough time in my day to be in silence, to reflect, to reconnect with myself, because I was finding myself in these moments, like at the end of the day at like 10 o'clock at night, being like, oh my gosh, like I have not been doing things for mental rest and creative rest at all. So those are 2 like basis, like the base of both my categories, where I need more creative rest, more play, and also I need more mental rest. In winter, I found out that those are some of the goals I wanted, and by the time I wanted to really commit to them in quarter 2, some of them were tweaked a little bit. Like one of the things I noticed is we can feel really like ambitious and bold and big in January. Some of it might be from the ego, or very largely influenced by other people that are focused on financial success, career, status success, physical appearance, and it's lacking the internal world. And one of the things that I noticed that I was trying to do a lot more in January, or like my plan was to be a bit more rigid and have certain things happen at certain times and for certain lengths of times. And I noticed like when I sat with that it was not benefiting me in the way it was meant to. Like that was me just like once again getting slipped up in wanting to have more control over my life. And it wasn't actually to improve like the essence of my life, like to enhance it. And sometimes enhancing it means less structure, which is weird, right? But it's that balance of the yin yang, the feminine and masculine energies, where you don't want too much of the rigid action taking spearheadedness. You also need a bit of that fluidity and you know, like receptiveness and time and silence. Like you need both to be able to really feel fulfilled personally, because that's also like the internal and external worlds that need to, you know, they just need to both be recognized. You can't really appreciate one without the other. So those are some of my realizations. And for spring, when spring comes, I really want us to like be fearless in our action and not really get too wrapped up into the way it looks, or even so much how it feels I know it can sound weird, but I think it's just doing it and letting your body and your mind get into this time of action. I mean, at least for like winter, I was really talking about like resting and embodying the Norwegian concept of koselig. There was nothing blooming, and now there's things blooming. And if you garden, the way that the germification process happens with the seed, it happens relatively fast. And then there's this plateau effect when the first little sprout comes out of the seed and above the soil. It's fast, and then it starts to slowly grow into something larger and bigger. And that's the idea that I want you guys to have in spring, is you don't really need to have the end goal of what it needs to look like, but at the very least, if you have a vision for yourself in the next, I don't know, let's say year, that's what I'm doing here. I don't like going too far because who knows? The next year, I have like an idea of how my future self is going to feel. What habits is she going to at least incorporate? I'm just going to try them out. So I dialed it down to 3. Definitely don't go more than 3, at least for now, because you won't be able to stick to it. For example, me wanting to be a morning person. I've really found out, not just with my aura ring and my genotype, but I'm not a 4 o'clock in the morning girly. I'm naturally more of a night owl. Not to the extent that I go to bed at like 2 in the morning, but I find a good time of waking is between 7 and 8. And I would guilt myself a lot about that. And I think if I added too much on my plate, doing too many habits and trying to wake up at 5 a.m. and I would do this workout split and I would do these meditation practices and journaling practices in the morning, and I would meal prep on Sundays, and I would work on my little side hustle at 7 o'clock from 9 p.m. every night. Like, you know what I mean? If I was doing too many of those, I might not have really figured out why I was feeling dissatisfied in the success I was having. And when you dial it down to 3, one of mine is morning pages. That process of just like having that as 1 allows me to almost reflect on how this is supporting me. I will never be an advocate that like what works for somebody works for you. Some people love morning pages. Some people like jotting down a few things. Some people like to talk it out. They don't really like to write it out. And it's important to know what actually works for you versus beating yourself up about a routine that's not really fitting, because maybe it's not meant to fit. Maybe you're not meant to wake up at 4 in the morning. Maybe you're meant to wake up at 7:30 in the morning and you stay up a little bit later than the other person. When you take it slower, when you only do a few habits at a time, you can be like, hey, you know what? These morning pages are not really doing much for me. Like, I just feel like I am having a hard time really sitting still in my thoughts, and like I feel like I have something to do and I keep getting busy and I keep trying to do like 3 pages and I feel like I'm running out of words. And so you're able to sit back and be like, okay, what can I do to tweak it? Because I really still want to make journaling a habit. Maybe I'll just start at 1 page. And if that's not working, maybe I'll just do it for 2 minutes. And actually 2 minutes is in my guide where I reference all these habit ideas from like James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, and there's a lot of it based on psychology. And sometimes at the end of the day, like if you have a habit you want to create, just like try it out for 2 minutes, because it's a commitment to yourself when you show up every day, right? So I think that when you have fewer habits, you're able to tweak them and honestly, at the same time, build a sustainable habit. Like, I would say now, meditation is now a part of my routine. I don't really forget about it in the morning. You know, when you first create a habit and you're like, oh man, I was supposed to do that and I forgot about it. Like, that means it's not automatic yet. You're still early learning stages of that habit. And you need cues, you need reminders, you need reinforcements, you need rewards, and you need less stimulation. Because remember what I said about my winter time when I recognized that learning curve with a new client? It's the same thing with a habit. There's a learning curve. It's going to feel weird because you haven't done it before. And the 2-minute rule is a way for you to just like basically take the load off and just show up for yourself in the way that you want to. I'm going to tell you what let's just like be real. I did them here. If you're watching video, you can see my little iPad. And my goal is a more peaceful morning routine. Before, in the winter month, I said, I want to wake up at 6 a.m., blah, blah, blah. And I realized that wasn't really what my higher self needed. My body needed even. My body was telling me that's not really what I want. And I can wake up early, but I don't need to wake up at like 4 a.m. Like I said, the habit that I'm going to be supporting that peaceful morning routine is morning pages. I already have engraved in me the habit of meditation, stretching, and affirmations. I don't need to think about those. That is why I encourage you to just choose one, because you know how long it took for me to really feel like meditation is part of my routine? And I will say, meditation being part of my routine is very strongly environmental. I still need to practice linking that habit to other areas, not just my house, me waking up in my house, because I notice if I wake up at my grandparents or my boyfriends, that doesn't really come automatically then waking up here. And it's just goes to show that the neuroassociations that you make of what you want to do, what you believe, your habits to your environment is so strong, and you can really use that in your favor. But if, for example, your morning includes none of that, and you roll out of bed, you make a coffee, you eat your breakfast, and you run out the door, but you want to have more of those mindful habits in the morning, create one of them. Just start one of them that you feel most aligned to and feel most confident to do, and you work from there. And so that's one of them. I even had this little thing being like, just start for 2 minutes. Even if it's 2 minutes, that's a great start, because you'll just like get more and more comfortable with the process and to remember to do it. And another thing that really helps is habit stacking. Habit stacking is when you have a habit that is automatic. Like I have meditation, and then I have a new habit that isn't automatic, but I'm going to try and link those with a neuroassociation. Like I said before, I'm going to try and link those so that I remember to do the new habit. Because honestly, one of the huge battles for me is like just forgetting, and like it's not in my natural rhythm of day-to-day life. And so I decided to do my morning pages right after meditation. I'll do my morning pages right after meditation. And another thing I do to support myself is environmental cues. I will help myself do this behavior by setting up my environment. So I have this one area where I meditate every morning. I go downstairs and I usually stretch and I get my body ready for meditation. But I have this one nook of my house that I do my meditation. And it's perfect because right in front of me, I have this table where I can put my journal before I go to bed. And I can put my journal there with my pen and have it right in front of my face. So right after I meditate and I open my eyes, I see that. And I can try at least for 2 minutes. That's my non-negotiable, is 2 minutes there to just try and do my morning pages. So I want to go back to 3 tips for the habits before I share my other 2. And one of them is habit stacking. So you combine a habit that's automatic to one that's new. You also have the 2-minute rule, where it's just like just takes the pressure off, especially in the early stages. Just do it for 2 minutes. Just try it out for 2 minutes. Even if it's like, I'm going to just get in the car to want to go to the gym. And if I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And then you can build upon that, right? So maybe you get in the car and you just drive to the gym and then you go home. Maybe you get in the car and you drive to the gym and you just walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes and then you go home. It's building it until it becomes more and more automatic and fun, and something you enjoy doing. The last one is environmental cues. So you set up your environment to want to perform that new habit and remind you to do that new habit. There's other ones like using the reward system. So after you do it, you get a reward. For example, if I want to do the rewards like with my morning pages, I love my coffee. So I could do habit stacking and rewards at the same time, where I would do my meditation, then I do my morning pages and immediately reward myself with a coffee. I will create an entire newsletter about this. You'll get even more tips in the guide for sure, but the newsletter at least is for free. And that way, if you want to create new habits and you don't really know how to reinforce them to like put them into your routine, at least those will be some tips. The next goal and habit that I would like to do is regular studying. I'm off school right now, but it doesn't mean that I want to stop learning. I want to keep that active recall of learning my studies. And also it will allow me to have the time to know what direction I'd like to go, if I'm really enjoying this, and not just doing the traditional way of school where I memorize everything, I try and get everything done, and then it's over. Like, I want to take this opportunity to learn more intentionally. So I have spent 30 minutes studying every work day. And I made it even more specific to be at 8:30, so then I would be able to start my work at 9. And I work from home, so I'm able to do that. And then I have the habit stacking of do this when coffee is ready. So I'll start my studying when I've brewed my coffee. And I always have coffee after breakfast for my gut. And the 2-minute rule, which is also just like another way of saying like the easiest thing, the most simple thing that you can do to just try and commit yourself, even if it isn't the full task. And I just said, just opening up the app. That's where I'm at right now. Just opening up the app and looking at my cards that I would need to study for the day. And for my environment, the night before, I'm going to be making sure that the app is the first thing that appears when I turn on my computer. And then also I'll have my notebook and things ready next to my computer so that I don't really need to get anything ready in the morning when I have that like morning fatigue. Like, I don't really want to get it all ready. Otherwise I might not do it. But at night I have the motivation. My last goal, because I don't do more than 3, right, until I feel more comfortable, is honor my category of play, and it is to read a fiction book, because I spend a lot of my days reading nonfiction educational content. And I want to reconnect with that little girl in me that loves fantasy. And I'm going to say at 6:30 every weekday, I'm going to be reading my fiction book for like, I don't know, I said at least 2 minutes, right? And then go for as long as I'd want to just let myself dream, let myself escape into another world, and also just get back into the hobby of reading again, because I really find that that is such a great hobby. It's so good for our brain. You're off screens. Like, I'm at least doing a job that's on my screens all the time. I can't even imagine what's going on in here in my eyes, being like, give me a break. Don't let me look at a screen anymore. And it's just even better in the spring and summer seasons, because I can be outside. I can just lay on the grass. I can lay in the sun and read. Like, that is another goal that I have. I want to label this as a defrosting for spring, because it's a lot of things. When you defrost for spring, a lot of us are doing spring cleaning. I did spring cleaning. I cleaned my room and thoroughly wiped all the areas of my windows and desks that really have been collecting a embarrassingly amount of dust, I must say. I have a bit more spring cleaning to do and purging, and will be doing capsule closets where I take out my summer clothes. I look at my winter clothes. I analyze the ones that really were never worn and haven't been for the last year, the last 2 winters, and I let it go and I give it away. And I create more room in my room to find clothes that really align with me, that align with the time of life that I'm in. Like, I want to feel like I'm expressing myself, and I don't really purchase any fast fashion. I'll do thrifting mostly. I also don't buy a lot of clothes, period, but I just find it nice to really know that everything I have is being used and is being loved. And I know at the very least, if I can donate some clothes that I'm not really using and won't find an excuse to use, then somebody will be able to wear it and love it, you know? Those are 2 other things in spring, is the spring cleaning, of course, but the capsule closets to have a refresh. And I would like to say the very last thing for defrosting is, when you are going to spend time taking action, you really want to make your environment reflect a version you want to be, not just who you are now. So if I am going to envision a future Bianca who has a mindful morning routine, is a lot more at ease with the productivity guilt, but also is very passionate and driven and works on her creative projects and is advancing her career and learning about health coaching, and at the same time allowing time for play and with friends, then what does her environment need to look like? What books need to be around here? What needs to go? What mindsets need to go? Thankfully, because of my guide, I was able to come up with some of them before spring even happened, like that rigid structure. So it's coming full circle to the start of the episode where I was talking about the lessons that I learned from winter, but then also what I had needed to unlearn before diving into this next quarter, to not follow the pack with this productivity guilt and this glow up series. I'm not going for a glow up series, guys. I'm wanting to be me. I'm wanting to feel at peace with life. Glowing up is not nearly as important as living life. I want to live life. I don't want to waste too many of my moments doing things that are just for looking a certain way. I want to feel a certain way, you know? And I really hope that inspires you guys to just think about making habits or building habits differently, thinking about spring differently, hustle culture differently, all of that, because really at the end of the day, you're doing all of this for you and your future self. Try not to have other people's ideas or expectations of you affect that. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that honestly you enjoyed this season. I can't even believe that it's been 6 months of me doing this, but I feel really proud of what I've created so far and of the people I've connected with and all of you. I've gained so many new listeners, and I'm just so happy that you guys are enjoying it. I feel successful now. And that will be one final thing I'll say is, if you are constantly racing or chasing some new thing or new idea of success, remember you're successful now. There's so much of your life that's successful now. And really, I'm starting to sit and realize that I am. And I'd like to keep growing, and I like to keep going in a direction that I'm meant to go in. But I'm going to allow myself to have fun and reward and also take breaks because we need it. And the little thing that I wanted to mention at the end of this is I decided to create a new TikTok that's like more fun, more personal, and isn't always just podcast and newsletter content. So if you wanted to follow me on there, I'll add it in the description along with the newsletter and the guide. So if any of you feel like, oh, I don't really know how to set myself up for quarter two, for success, mainly fulfillment, and aligning myself with the energies of spring, I have an entire guide about it. And I will say, although quarter one is finished, you can start at quarter two. And later on, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I want to do it and we're in quarter three, like we're in the summer month or the fall month, you can still get it and just read through it and know how to set up the next quarter, because like we're not trying to be perfect here. We're just trying to go for just progression, right? So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning into this season. And I'm so excited for the next season. I think I'm going to be taking about a month and a half off. So I'll see you guys potentially in June. So June, definitely before quarter three, because I want to at least follow up on how all of you guys are doing. And also quarter three is super important. It's a time not to miss. But let's focus on momentum, bold action, and blooming. It's blooming season. I love you all. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys, I guess not next week, in a few weeks. If you guys like this episode, please make sure to check out my other episode on self-efficacy. It would be a great episode to listen to if you're having a hard time figuring out what habits to do, because your self-efficacy will strongly predict if you will be creating a sustainable habit. I give you 4 different tips on how to boost self-efficacy at the very least, so that if you have a habit that you're like, oh, I don't feel 100% confident with, but I want to, it will at least give you other tools during quarter two to get the ball rolling and really make 2025 like an incredible year for you, because I feel it coming. I don't know if you guys feel it coming, but I do. Bye.